brought to you by Bangkok Bank ราชมงคล University of Technology ธัญบุรี
Good morning, ASEAN. Freshen up your world, your thought, and your idea with us every Monday to Friday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. I'm Nirasha Malaysia.
And Awina Jongbrasit is Friday, the 30th of August. And next week, we will see a meeting for trade between China and ASEAN member countries. But there is one country that's not attending, which is the Philippines, as the President Benigno Aquino has called off a visit to China next week at Beijing's request, Manila said on Thursday, as the two nations wrangle over maritime disputes. Aquino had announced on Wednesday that he would make a 12-hour trip to Nanning on September 3rd to attend a trade fair and business conference called the China-ASEAN Expo. The president has decided not to proceed, taking into consideration China's request for the president to visit China at a more conducive time, Foreign Affairs spokesman Raul Hernandez said in a statement. Asked why China made such a request, Hernandez told AFP, "Maybe you can ask China." Hernandez reiterated the Philippine position that bilateral relations can advance despite differences, an apparent reference to the festering dispute over the South China Sea. While it did not directly comment on Aquino's aborted trip, the Chinese Foreign Ministry said in a faxed statement to AFP in Beijing that there were difficulties in ties and urged Manila to take steps to remove the disturbance. It did not say what the disturbance was. Tensions between China and other claimants to the South China Sea, particularly the Philippines and Vietnam, have escalated in recent years amid a series of Chinese political and military actions to assert its claims to the waters. The Philippines earlier this year said it had applied for its dispute with China to be arbitrated under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, a 1982 treaty signed by both countries. China has rejected the Philippines' call for UN arbitration, insisting on bilateral negotiations with its smaller neighbor. The annual Nanning Exposition, which began in 2004, is intended to strengthen economic ties between China and ASEAN, of which the Philippines is also a member.
And in a related development, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi yesterday held a meeting with foreign ministers of the 10 associations of Southeast Asian nations or ASEAN countries in Beijing amid strained ties due to the maritime territory disputes. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said in a statement that the meeting will mainly focus on strengthening the China-ASEAN strategic partnership and celebrating the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the China-ASEAN strategic partnership. Beijing's assertions of sovereignty over a vast stretch of the South China Sea has set it directly against Vietnam and the Philippines, while Brunei, Taiwan, and Malaysia also lay claim to other parts of the sea, making it Asia's biggest potential military trouble spot. However, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi called on all sides should cherish the current stable situation in the South China Sea. He said that currently the South China Sea situation is stable, especially when comparing it to other places in the world. The stable situation in the South China Sea has not come easily, and all parties should cherish it dearly. In terms of free navigations in the South China Sea, it was not a problem and it will never be in the future. Meanwhile, Thailand Foreign Minister Surapong Tawichakchaikul said that ASEAN should work towards more cooperations. However, critics say that China is intent on cementing its claim over the sea through its superior and growing naval might, and has little interest in rushing to agree a code of conduct with ASEAN nations, four of which have competing claims. Divisions among ASEAN over the maritime dispute burst into the open a year ago when a summit chaired by Chinese ally Cambodia failed to issue closing communications for the first time in the group's 45-year history.
The U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel is currently on a visit to the Philippines amidst dozens of activists rallying in front of the U.S. Embassy in Manila. Protesters carried various anti-military placards and chanted U.S. troops out now as they marched to the U.S. Embassy gate. They later burned a mock U.S. warship. Activists said a continued U.S. presence will further heighten tensions in the region already embroiled in a territorial dispute. Activist John Salvador said even if the Philippines and U.S. only agree to increase rotational presence, it is still de facto basing because they want to temporarily station their troops there. Our sentiments are strong against bringing back the U.S. bases and their troops in the country. Hagel's visit comes at a time when the two security allies are holding negotiations to increase U.S. military presence in the Philippines, including storage of equipment and supplies. Hagel was expected to arrive yesterday from a two-day defense ministers meeting in Dubai with 10 ASEAN member countries, including his counterparts in Japan, China, South Korea, India, Russia, Australia, and New Zealand. The Philippines has been seeking for greater military help from its treaty ally, the United States, to boost its defense capability amid growing tensions in the Asia-Pacific region over territorial claims in the South China Sea. Hagel is expected to leave Manila today.
And now let's have a look at the development of the political situation in Cambodia as the opposition Cambodian National Rescue Party, or CNRP, yesterday afternoon provided a training session to its members on how to hold peaceful demonstrations ahead of a mass protest planned on September 7. According to a party statement, say that this session was held at the party's headquarters on the outskirts of Phnom Penh. The CNRP, in cooperation with the non-governmental organizations, provided a training sessions to the party's working groups in order to prepare for a non-violent and peaceful mass demonstration on September 7th. It said that the party would hold two protest rehearsals on September 1st and September 5th. CNRP's President Sam Rainsy said yesterday that a mass protest planned on September 7 has no intention to overthrow the current government of long-serving Prime Minister Hun Sen, but to demand to establish an independent poll irregularity probe committee. Rainsy also renewed his calls for the ruling Cambodia's People's Party, or CPP, of Prime Minister Hun Sen to resume negotiations towards the establishment of the proposed committee. In a press conference, he said that if talks between the two parties towards the formations of an independent poll probe committee have been resumed, CNRP will cancel its protest plan. Meanwhile, CPP issued a statement yesterday saying that the party was ready to resume talks with the CNRP, but ruled out the possibility of talks on the formations of a special investigation committee into poll irregularities since it was against the constitution. Initial official results from the July 28 polls show that Prime Minister Hun Sen's party won 68 of the 123 parliamentary seats, and the CNRP of long-term opposition leader Sam Rainsy took the remaining 55 seats. However, CNRP rejected the results, saying that it should have won 63 seats, with the CPP getting the remaining 60 seats if alleged poll irregularities were fairly resolved. The National Election Committee is also expected to issue the final polls results on September 8th.
After the break, Indonesia and Thailand will be working together to try to raise the world rubber prices. The former Thai Deputy Prime Minister yesterday suggested that Thailand might join hands with Indonesia to raise the world rubber prices together. So Thep Tuksaban of the opposition Democrat Party told that the Thai Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra during a weekly meeting of the House of Representatives that she should visit the archipelago state and talk with the Indonesian President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono to reach an agreement on the rubber price issue so both countries will stop undercutting each other's prices in the world markets. Well, instead, Suthep commented that Thailand and Indonesia might raise the world rubber prices together, given the fact that both are currently the world's biggest and second biggest rubber exporting countries, respectively. Each has exported an estimated 3 million tons of rubber yearly. Besides, he said that the premier should visit China, Japan, and other countries which have regularly bought Thai rubber and directly tell government leaders in those countries that the rubber prices need to be increased probably from next January. Meanwhile, the Yingluck government was suggested to pledge the rubber planters countrywide to raise the domestic rubber prices from yesterday's 74 to 82 baht, or 2.4 to 2.7 US dollars per kilogram, to 105 to 110 baht, or 3.5 to 3.6 US dollars per kilogram from next January. Yingluck, who was briefly present during the floor debate on the rubber price issue, did not respond to Suthep's advice and excused herself to leave Parliament for an official chore at the government house. She only pledged to see to it that the domestic rubber prices will go up sooner or later in favor of the rubber planters who have claimed to be suffering substantial losses.
And from the rubber prices, now let's have a look at the gas prices for LPG. As Thailand's the Foundations for the Consumers yesterday filed a petition with the Central Administrative Court seeking an order blocking a cabinet resolution to hike the retail price of households LPG. The hike of liquefied petroleum gas by 50 satang per kilogram is scheduled to go into effect from Sunday, the same day that the price of electricity and expressway tolls will be raised. The planned cooking gas hike is one of the many factors that are increasing the cost of living. The others are higher petrol prices, rising costs of utilities, and more expensive food items, which are all at a time when the baht is getting weaker. The global price of oil has surged 27% since touching a low of 86.68 US dollars on April 17. It was recently propelled higher by the political unrest in Egypt and the threat of US intervention in Syria's civil war, according to the Associated Press. Neither country is a major oil exporter, but traders are concerned that the violence could spread to more important oil exporting countries or disrupt major transport routes. The Consumers Foundation claiming the government resolution went against the law, and the Constitution said yesterday that the price of cooking gas should be maintained at 18.13 baht per kilogram until a legitimate resolution ordered otherwise. Meanwhile, members of the network of people as Thai energy owners gathered outside the PTT headquarters in Bangkok Chatuchak area yesterday to rally against the LPG price hike. They vowed to run a campaign from September 1 to 8 to gather 50,000 signatures demanding the removal of Pongsak as energy minister. The group has also threatened to hold a large rally on September 9 to push for his removal.
Malaysian authorities are going to launch a 3-month special operation on Sunday to arrest and deport an estimated 500,000 illegal immigrants, according to the Star newspaper. We have given them more than a year to take up the offer to register under Malaysia's illegal immigrant comprehensive settlement program. It is now time for full enforcement, Datuk Alias Ahmad, Immigration Director General, told the Star. He added that the majority of the targets were Indonesians who would be deported from Pasir Gadung port in Johor. However, the Bangladeshis, Vietnamese, Nepalese, and Myanmar nationals are also among the illegal immigrants. An estimated 700,000 Myanmar workers are staying in Malaysia, and many of them are illegal immigrants. Regarding with any plan for Myanmar illegal immigrants who could be caught under the operation, Myanmar Embassy in Kuala Lumpur was contacted but no reply was made. The operation will involve over 100,000 personnel from the Malaysian Immigration Department, Police, Armed Forces, Civil Defense, National Registration Department, and the local councils. The Immigration Department will lead the operation.
And now let's have a look at the rice as China continues to purchase Myanmar's rice despite the dwindling export during the month of July, according to traders. Rice exports decreased sixfold during the month of July, and currently Myanmar competes with Vietnam to export rice to China, which is also buying Vietnamese rice because it is cheaper. Chan Tao, vice chairman of the Myanmar Paddy Association, said that Myanmar has a lot of export rice because the rice traders are selling their collective rice. Currently, China is purchasing Myanmar's rice because it is of high standard, and there is 1,000 to 1,200 tons of rice a day in Moose trading camp. The price of rice has also increased in the local market in July, though the price is now stable due to selling of stable reserve rice. Myanmar exports high-quality rice at the 450 to 460 US dollars per ton. It also sells lesser quality rice of 25% broken grain at 405 to 410 US dollars per ton.
The next special report is from the Strait Times Singapore on the new measures for owning houses, and find out what Singaporeans will have to say about this.
Singaporeans welcomed the new housing measures announced by National Development Minister Koh Boon Wan on Tuesday, saying that this will help make it easier for people to own their own homes. One policy change in particular that got Singaporeans' attention: newly minted permanent residents will now have to wait 3 years before they can purchase a resale flat. As of June, permanent residents fully own 51,000 flats, or 6% of all HDB flats. About 60,000 people became permanent residents in the past 2 years.
It's fair for citizens, because PRs, they might not become national citizens. Yeah. So I think that is one of the better moves, actually.
I think citizens should come first, so I think that would be a good measure to implement, actually. Yeah.
I think most of the PRs actually applied to be PR since they're going to work here for an extended period of time so they can get a cheaper housing, to actually kind of cut it down and now say that, oh, you need to wait for 3 years. I don't know what's the draw for them, aside from working here, to want to be a PR anymore. So, well, good luck to the PRs. That's all I can say.
Definitely, it will bring down the COV prices down further, because like last year we have seen that flats have been going at more than 1 million, which is I think is going against the so-called the core purpose of the HDB flats. So I believe it will not be a very drastic change, but I believe it will bring it down, so-called adjust the prices a bit to a more so-called reasonable range.
Following Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong's announcement on August 18 on the extension of the special housing grant, Mr. Kaur also announced that the income limit will be raised to $6,500, up from the previous $2,250. This grant will be a subsidy of up to $20,000, aimed at helping more middle-income households.
I think that they're in line with the rise in the HDB prices. I think a lot of people need help, even though their income is much higher than before, because the prices have been rising for the last 8 years, I think. So I think it's a good thing that government is preempting that by giving Singaporeans more help.
Actually, the initial 2,500 was really very low. I mean, if for any normal graduate couple now, they will easily earn more than 2,500 per person. So with that new ruling, I think like more of the new couples now, like those who just graduate, can actually apply for houses without worrying about like the big sum of like money they must fork out at the beginning. Yeah.
One change that had Singaporeans a little worried were the tighter rules on HDB loans. HDB shortened its loan period from 30 to 25 years, and repayments are now capped at 30% of the monthly income. Bank loans for HDB flats will also be reduced from 35 to 30 years.
I assume that your monthly installments are going to be a bit higher. Interest is also going to be a bit higher. Doesn't help that the car prices are going up as well, so everything's just going to get more expensive then.
I think a very prudent measure so that Singaporeans will not overstretch themselves by overspending. I suppose I think a lot of people predict that the prices may fall. If it's too drastic, if they get into a trap, they may get into hard time in the future. So it's better to prevent that from happening now.
The people will think twice before they invest or they buy the flat itself. Better planning.
I always say it's a good thing. The faster you finish your loans, better. So that's what I say, yeah.
Other changes include improving the multi-generation priority scheme, which encourages families to stay within the same build-to-order project, and building a new type of 3-generation flat in Yishun.
And that wraps up our Good Morning ASEAN edition. See you again, same time, same place, same channel.
Thank you so much for joining. I'm Mina Tungpasit.
And I am Nira Shamalesak Lami. Have a great weekend. Swadee ka.
Swadee ka.